choose to be. You choose.
The Iron Giant is one of the greatest animated movies ever made. It's a film that fills you with a childlike sense of wonder because it's so imaginative and conceptual while also being very human, earnest, and relatable. It's a story with a real understanding on the value of life, the value of choice, and what it really means to be a hero. It's often said that Superman is unrelatable, that it's hard for people to identify with his character because he is too powerful, that he's basically a god. But that's a conclusion that you reach when you only take into account all the superficial aspects that make up Superman. But when you take a closer look, you realize that the beauty of his character is that, despite being an alien, he's actually one of the most human heroes ever. He might have been born Kal-El, but he grew up and formed an entire life as Clark Kent. He's a humble kid that was raised on a farm in a remote, mundane town in Kansas. That's not really hard to relate to. He was a shy kid who grew up filled with self-doubt of his own amazing potential, much like there is amazing potential in all of us. When you look at him through this perspective, it's easy to see how millions of people from all different types of backgrounds can relate to Superman, how anyone and everyone can be influenced and inspired by what he represents. This is why 1999's The Iron Giant is in large part a Superman story. Despite not having the character literally and physically in the movie, it's one of the greatest tales to ever capture the pure essence of Superman and what he stands for. Nowadays, whenever most people think of a variation on the Superman archetype, the first example they usually think of is that of an evil Superman, since it's become a pretty popular concept. But that's only one type of the many variations on Superman that writers have come up with over the years. There are many different Superman takes that reinvent the concept by focusing on certain aspects of his character and by putting a twist on the concept. In the case of The Iron Giant, the concept for the movie came about from director Brad Bird, who pitched the movie to Warner Brothers executives with a question: what if a gun had a soul and didn't want to be a gun? Instead of the last infant son of a dying planet crash landing on Earth, it was a conscious weapon that was sent here with the original intent of invading and destroying us. But of course, that was his original intent, the mission that was programmed into him by his own kind. Yet, when he arrives on Earth, he is influenced and helped by positive figures. Despite being an automated machine, a robot, these positive influences make him actually be able to think for himself and to understand the impact that his power has on the environment and how fragile and valuable life is.
I know you feel bad about the deer, but it's not your fault. Things die. It's part of life. It's bad to kill, but it's not bad to die. Well, yes, someday.
This is a movie that has a 9-year-old boy explain the concept of death to a giant, immensely powerful being, and it works so well. Hogarth is a shy, lonely kid who is constantly being bullied by his peers, and despite this, he isn't an aggressive or mean person. He still chooses to be good. He isn't antisocial, because we see him bonding with the giant and Dean, who are both outsiders just like him, and he has a natural instinct to care for other living beings that need help. A small yet significant detail that gives a lot more three-dimensionality to Hogarth's character is the fact that his father was a pilot who died when he was very young, and while this is obviously a source of sadness and we see hints of depression throughout the movie, it's also a reminder for him as to why it's so important to be a good person and to help others, because his father did the same in his lifetime, being a pilot for the US Army. We only get to see Hogarth's father in the movie very briefly, in a small framed photo right by Hogarth's bed, and it's such a small but greatly important detail that is never directly talked about in the movie because the event itself wasn't relevant to the story, but it's fundamental in understanding Hogarth's character. The movie's pacing is immaculate, and every single scene counts. Every moment was written and illustrated with a great amount of thought, care, and intent, and every scene was crafted to develop and reveal more about the characters. This might be a film appropriate for kids, but it treats its audience with real respect, just like it treats its source material with respect. Superman's name might not be in the title, but the central themes, morals, and values that the movie focuses on are literally Superman's entire message. That's why, in spirit, this is a Superman movie. Since it is a story about a lost individual being inspired by Superman to be good, and to not be defined by how others perceive you, and to value all living beings. Would you be surprised if I told you that some of the best Superman stories aren't even technically about Superman himself? A recurring comment in Superman discourse is the thought that Superman is a hard character to write for, and admittedly, a lot of Superman's best comics are stories set outside of DC's main universe, and as such, aren't bogged down by contrivances and limitations that come from decades of continuity. But Superman is only a difficult character to write for if you approach him from the perspective that he is an alien god, when in reality, he's more human than any other character, despite not being from Earth. That's why most of Superman's best stories focus on what his ideals mean and how they relate to humanity in general, and some aren't even directly about Superman himself. One of the greatest, most wholesome and human Superman stories ever is Jeff Loeb's and Tim Sale's Superman for All Seasons, which is told from the perspective of 4 different people from Superman's life and what he means to each of them, capturing the character's spirit in small vignettes from extraordinary events and mundane moments in their lives. And this aspect of him and his stories is what I think makes Superman such a special character. And good Superman stories don't necessarily have to be about Superman himself, because focusing on what his ideals mean and how he inspires other people is an amazing vehicle to tell great stories. That's why there's so many Superman-like characters that directly play off of his archetype. And that's something that has led to great stories, and the Iron Giant is one of those great Superman variants. Superman inspires us to do good, simply because of the sanctity of life and empathy for all living beings. We all have amazing potential within ourselves, and some individuals already have great power. That's why it's so important to use that power to help those who are more vulnerable than us. He inspires us to be more than what people expect, that it doesn't matter from where you come from or what your past may be. Nothing defines you except your choices, and you can always choose to help people. You can always choose not to hurt and inflict pain, even though there may be individuals that consider you to be dangerous and a weapon. You can always choose to be good. A great Superman story should always leave you wanting to be a better person by the end of it. And that's exactly what the Iron Giant does. It makes you want to be good and to do good. And that's why the Iron Giant is a great Superman story. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I had a lot of fun making this video and rewatching the Iron Giant. And in case anyone's interested, here's my favorite Superman movies that actually have Clark Kent Superman in them. Since I know that some of you are probably wondering what is my favorite quote-unquote actual Superman movie. But I also want to know, what is your favorite Superman movie? And what do you think about the Iron Giant? Maybe you don't like it, and that's totally fine. I literally never met anyone who doesn't like this movie, but I'm sure those people are out there. I'm sure they exist, I think.